Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of JavaScript statements, syntax and comments. And in this episode I'm gonna talk about string concatenation, arithmetic operators, the assignment operator, keywords, rules for the identifiers and the names of them, and numbers are not allowed as the first character in names for variables. For example, I'm gonna talk about case sensitivity and also the camel case naming convention and different naming conventions. So let's get started. So first, I am going to cover string concatenation. Basically, what this means is that we will combine different strings, and strings are a piece of text. So we can combine different strings, and I'm gonna show you how. Let's take this first paragraph with the ID of example 1 and go and write document dot get element by ID and example. Example, there we go. And then let's change the inner HTML to be a string of hello and use a plus sign and type in everyone and a semicolon. Now you can see that there is the text, but it's all written in one word and we want a space between here. So what we have to do is basically type plus, then an empty string and another plus, and here needs to be a space. And there we go. So now we have done a string concatenation. We can remove that. So basically we are adding hello plus a white space plus everyone. And that's exactly what gets displayed on the web page. Alright, that's the first example about this lesson. Alright, then I'm gonna talk about the arithmetic operators. So let's make a variable. Let x equals 25, and this is the assignment operator right over here. So in this example we are creating a variable called x and we are assigning a value of 25 to x. So that's the assignment operator. Alright, now that we have x here, we can do document dot get element by ID. Let's get the example, and I'm gonna change the inner HTML to be equal to x plus 5. So this is the same thing as 25 plus 5, and that will be 30. I can also do minus, that's going to be 25 minus 5, that's going to be 20. I can do the multiplication, 25 times 5 is 125, and I can do division. 25 divided by 5 is equal to 5. So those are the arithmetic operators. There's more, but we will talk about them later. Alright, then we have keywords. So JavaScript keywords, they are used to identify actions to be performed. So for example, the let keyword tells the browser to create a variable. Here we are creating a variable and assigning a variable at the same time. We could also do is first declare the variable and then assign x to be equal to 25. This is the same thing as doing this. So they both result in the same outcome. We can also use the keyword var, which means variable, but we don't really use the var keyword anymore because we have the let and const keywords to create variables. So yeah, I'm gonna show you in the future what's the difference between var and let. Now the difference between const is that we cannot change the value of a constant variable. For example, if I make this a constant variable and then I try to reassign it, for example, x equals 30, well, that's not gonna work. I'm gonna open the site in my browser like this. I'm gonna right click, inspect, and go to the console. We have an uncaught type error, assignment to a constant variable at index 13, line 13, and line 13 it is. So we cannot redeclare variables if they are created with the const keyword. So I am going to use let. But however, by default, if we don't have to change a variable, we will use const. That's more secure. So by default, we use const for a constant variable, and only when we have to change a variable, we will use let. So let's make this a constant variable because we don't have to change the value of x. The x's value is the same as before, 25. It's only being divided by 5. So yeah, that's the keywords. Then I'm gonna talk about the rules for JavaScript identifiers and the names. So, identifiers are called JavaScript names. Identifiers are used for naming variables like x. This is an identifier. We can also name keywords, functions, all kinds of stuff. And the rules for legal names are the same in most programming languages. In JavaScript, the name must begin with a letter. I'm gonna comment this out. In JS, a identifier name must begin with a letter, and that includes uppercase and lowercase letters. It can also begin with a dollar sign, and it can also begin with an underscore. So those are the only exceptions. We're gonna use letters, uppercase, lowercase, both are okay, or a dollar sign or underscore. Any other symbol is not valid. Alright, now I can remove this. We have gone over this. And next one is that numbers are not allowed as the first character in names. So if I was to name this constant 3x, that wouldn't work. We have an error. Variable declaration expected. An identifier or keyword cannot immediately follow a numeric literal. So that's why we have to use x. But naming this, for example, x3, and this one is completely legal. That is going to work, but the name cannot begin with a number. Alright, then we can remove this, and then I'm gonna go ahead and explain what the case sensitivity means. So for example, here we have the x constant variable. If I was to make this an uppercase x, like this, nothing is showing up on the web page anymore, and this says that we couldn't find a name x in lowercase, and it asks, did you mean x in uppercase? Now if we change this to uppercase, it's going to work again. So this is what case sensitivity means. Basically, if this variable is called random variable, like that, it needs to be written the exact same over here. If just only one letter, for example this A, is uppercase, it won't work anymore. Or over here. There we go. You guys can see that it doesn't work anymore, so that's the case sensitivity. Then I'm gonna talk about the camel case naming convention. So basically, camel case is a naming convention that's usually used in JavaScript. So what it essentially means is that we start our variable names and identifier names with a lowercase character, and then the rest of the words, like this variable v, will start with an uppercase character. So that's an example of camel case naming convention. There's also other naming conventions in programming, like for example underscore. That's going to be like this. For example, first name or random variable. Then there's upper camel case, also known as Pascal case, and that essentially means that we are using a uppercase character as the first character, like this. So every single character of, or every first character of every single word is going to be uppercase. That's called Pascal case naming convention. And then we have lower camel case, and that's what JavaScript uses. So lower camel case. It works like this. First name, random variable, whatever, or maybe even a 3-word letter like this is JavaScript. So this is the naming convention that we are going to use. Alright, so there we go. I showed you the camel case naming convention that's used with JavaScript, and also some different naming conventions from other programming languages. Alright, that's all I had to discuss in this episode, and yeah, this was kind of a sequence to the previous episode of statements, the syntax, and comments. In the next episode we will continue with variables in more detail. So yeah, I hope you learned something new in this episode, and I hope that I'm gonna see you guys later. Happy learning everyone, and have a wonderful day.